Hello, welcome and salutations to Den of Otaku, Den of Geek's official anime discussion series, where we break down all things anime, Japanese pop culture, and just basically all the biggest developments going on in the industry. I am your host, Daniel Kurland, and we've got such an exciting episode for you here today, where we're kind of talking about the past of anime, the future of anime, meeting it in the middle, and just how the past can inform the future. So, to kick things off, there's been a very exciting announcement that there's a live-action Naruto movie being done by Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. Live-action anime has been a very mixed bag. Some people wrote this off right from the start, but there's been a really exciting revolution on that front. The One Piece anime has really kind of helped change that narrative. And of course, you still do have things like Ghost in the Shell or Dragon Ball Evolution and Cowboy Bebop that don't exactly work, but it's exciting to see more successful series happening. I mean, Netflix, in addition to One Piece, they have a live-action Yu Yu Hakusho out. There's been the live-action Avatar, which isn't exactly anime, but is like in the same house. And I think what people are seeing kind of makes the difference here is when people aren't just taking this brand and doing a live action version of it, but actually having a dialogue with the creator, talking with them, and trying to honor their vision, honor their themes, and reflecting why they wanted to make this series in the first place. And that's what's going on with Naruto. It seems like the creator of Naruto, Masashi Kishimoto, a lot of people have kind of tried to woo him in terms of making a live-action Naruto, but Destin Daniel Cretton is the first person who's kind of actually broken through and gotten his attention, and Kishimoto has actually endorsed him and said that Cretton has a really exciting vision for this property, that he's open to collaborating with him, and that they're working together on doing a live-action film that's going to do the source material justice. And once again, I think that's kind of the deciding factor in what makes a good live-action anime movie or not. And Naruto is such a big franchise that if this is a success, I think it's really going to tip the idea over into the next generation here. Like, we're going to see a lot more live-action anime movies that are tackling these big budget, A-profile productions. I mean, Dragon Ball Evolution really kind of failed, but if there's a good live-action Naruto out, I think we could see someone trying that again. You can see more of the biggest anime like Bleach and even My Hero Academia getting these live-action productions. And kind of off of what Naruto is doing, there's also been a recent announcement. There's been a One-Punch Man live-action film that's been in development that's kind of been stalling for a bit, and One-Punch Man kind of takes the shonen superhero genre and really kind of satirizes it and deconstructs it in an exciting way. There's been news that Justin Lin is directing a One-Punch Man film, but what's changed in this development is that it's been announced that Heather Ann Campbell and Dan Harmon are rewriting the script, and that's what has me excited. Dan Harmon is perhaps best known for Community, the Sarah Silverman program, Rick and Morty, Crapopolis, which is a better show than you would think. Check out Crapopolis. There's some fun stuff going on there. But Heather Ann Campbell, she's a huge anime fan. She lives and breathes anime. She writes on Rick and Morty and Crapopolis too. Even though they might not necessarily be working with One Punch Man's creator, these are true fans. And something like One Punch Man can really fail if it doesn't understand the shoebox that it's operating in. These are great genre deconstructionists. Dan Harmon has done this repeatedly in his productions, and Heather Ann Campbell really understands and appreciates anime. She's already a big One Punch Man fan, and I think they'll really bring something special to this production. I mean, Justin Lin and Dan Harmon, they were the team that did Community's first Modern Warfare paintball episode. So if we kind of get like the Modern Warfare of anime in this One Punch Man movie, that's incredible. That's like the best thing imaginable. So a live-action One Punch Man movie was something that people were a little hesitant about, but I'm excited for it now. It seems like this and Naruto, between the two of them, we could really have this exciting resurgence of live-action anime movies, and that could usher in some really exciting things. To build off of that, My Hero Academia is one of the biggest anime going on right now, and in addition to the anime and manga, they've been putting out feature films. The series' fourth movie is coming out this August. It's called You're Next. Not the horror film You're Next, but there's actually some dark things going on here, and My Hero Academia has done a really good job of delivering movies that work in a standalone context, but also kind of complement the larger narrative of the anime series. And what's going on in their new movie is a All Might doppelganger kind of arises, named Dark Might, and this Dark Might takes All Might's kind of creed of heroism and subverts it into his own kind of nefarious purposes. The show has kind of explored this theme before with someone like Stain, but Dark Might seems to be like this new malevolent force who looks like All Might. He might have All Might's powers, but is kind of warping that philosophy in a really dark way. And what's cool about this, I think, is the whole dark double, like evil twin idea has been really popular in anime, and it really gets into the idea of heroism, responsibility, and how that's not enough. Like, power alone isn't what's important. It's really the intention and ideology behind these characters that makes the difference. That this whole like nature versus nurture thing, that two characters can look the same, they can have the same power, but it's really what they bring to the table in their philosophy that makes the difference here. And you've seen the same kind of thing going on in like American comics with someone like Bizarro Superman or even Venom, that they like have a comparable skill set to their original character, but they're very different just based on what motivates them to be a fighter. And it's been really curious to see this kind of theme in trope carry through anime. I mean, like Dragon Ball has done this whole dark double thing a lot. Dr. Slump 2, Doraemon has done it a bunch in its movies. Everything from like Saint Seiya to Magic Knight Rayearth to Bleach to City Hunter. This is really popular. Like, there are even anime that do it in like a one-off context. Like Sailor Moon has a great like one-off episode that does this. Ranma 1/2, Sailor Moon 2. Even video games, you see things like Shadow the Hedgehog, Dark Link, Dark Samus from Metroid, and it's just such a cool idea, I think, and it's interesting that this is something that audiences aren't burnt out on, that it's still an idea we can continually return to, and My Hero Academia is really the perfect series to bring something else to that equation. It's a series that's so interested in the concept of heroes, whether heroes are inherently good or if there is a dark side to them, and just what it really means to be a hero. And so My Hero Academia, Your Next, should explore this in some really exciting ways, and it'll be interesting to see what this movie brings to the equation. And in addition to a new My Hero Academia movie, the 7th season of the anime is also airing right now. This show, I think, in my opinion, it gets better each year. Like, it started off as kind of a very kid-friendly show, but each season has grown progressively more mature. The 7th season is kind of approaching the end game. It's getting right to the final war between like Shigaraki and All for One versus Midoriya and One for All, and it's really just getting into this extended brawl. And what's really interesting in what the 7th season has done so far is so much of the show is situated on Japan's pro heroes. And these new episodes have kind of expanded that border and shined a light on America's pro heroes. And there's a character named Star and Stripe who's kind of, once again, an All Might doppelganger, but like an American interpretation of what a superhero is, what it means to have this superpower. And it's really kind of cool to see My Hero Academia take an American superhero and show it as someone that Japan needs to win this war, that it's a superpower that they're depending on, rather than something like it riffs on some themes of like World War II ideology of how America was this destructive force of nature against Japan, that it's taking that idea and kind of doing the reverse here, that it's not something that Japan is afraid of, but actually something that Japan depends on, that they need their help to win this war. So My Hero Academia 7th season is currently airing, but that and the movie have just made the show more exciting than ever, and it's kind of cool to see what it's ushering in for the future of its series and what's just coming ahead for the shonen genre in general. So, in addition to the future of anime, we kind of want to take a look back to some previous projects and just look at what's going on with them in the next generation. So something that's kind of cool that has me excited is Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. This is the sequel to Ghost in the Shell. It's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, and to celebrate that, G-Kids, who has become one of like the best anime distributors, they put out Miyazaki's Boy and the Heron, they did the re-release of End of Evangelion, they're putting Ghost in the Shell 2 back in theaters on the June 23rd, June 24th, and June 26th with a new 4K restoration. It's being shown, it's English dub, but also the original Japanese, but they've given it new subtitles. Like there's revised, updated subtitles that make it a little more accurate than the original. And it's really cool to see this film getting celebrated and to have the opportunity to see it in theaters, because it's a very interesting piece of anime history that kind of went overlooked in an interesting way. Like the original Ghost in the Shell is such a prototypical cyberpunk thriller anime. It's still a series that we talk about a lot. A sequel for that kind of thing was inevitable, but what Mamoru Oshii did with Ghost in the Shell 2 is a very unconventional approach to a sequel, that he's not just like chasing a trend, but really just telling a story that resonates with him, that fits in the broader Ghost in the Shell universe. So for instance, Ghost in the Shell's main character, Major Mitoku Kusanagi, she's kind of like relegated to a cameo in the sequel. The film focuses on Batu instead, and it tells this kind of cyberpunk mystery about a bunch of sex robots called gynoids that start killing their masters. And this should be something that should be impossible. The sex dolls shouldn't have personalities. They shouldn't be able to create a motive. So this is confusing a lot of people, and what seems to be the cause for this is that a hacker has artificially and illegally implanted personalities on these sex dolls, and with these personalities, you see motives form, and it gets into the classic Ghost in the Shell idea of identity, humanity, control, and power that are so fascinating when recontextualized through technology. And Ghost in the Shell 2 does such an interesting job of exploring that, and it's a very different sequel, that it's almost more like interested in the philosophy behind these things rather than just big action sequences. This was a movie that took 5 years to put together, which is a little abnormal for an anime movie. It's the first and only anime film that's competed at Cannes for the Palme d'Or, which is really cool, I think. And some people have written this film off in the past as being like too pretentious for its own good. And admittedly, there are like a lot of high-minded things going on in this movie, although it still does have action sequences. Like there's some great Yakuza stuff and like hacker carnage going on. But there are really like big ideas going on here, and the film makes more and more sense the more that you see it. It kind of illuminates Mamoru Oshii's the rest of his filmography, like something like Angel's Egg, the Pat Labor movie, even his stuff on like Urusei Yatsura and Lupin III. All of that kind of makes more sense when you have the extra puzzle piece of Ghost in the Shell 2. And all of these films kind of work together, and it's just a fascinating approach to a sequel, that it really kind of feels like a mouthpiece for what Oshii has been interested in doing with anime, rather than just doing another Ghost in the Shell sequel for the sake of doing one. And more than anything, it's just cool that this film is back in theaters. Like, I've never seen it in a theater before. I'm excited to see it in a theater, and it's exciting to see these kind of niche projects get a second chance in modern re-releases. That this used to be something that was kind of only reserved for the best of the best anime movies, something that would be a surefire hit. And it's cool that Ghost in the Shell 2 is getting this treatment, that it can potentially reach a bigger audience than ever before, and that more people can kind of take it in and see what's going on in this movie. They just announced that a new Ghost in the Shell anime series is happening by Saiyan Saru, who did like the Scott Pilgrim anime, Devilman Crybaby, Inu-Oh. They're a really exciting company, and they should be doing some really cool things with the brand. Supposedly it's going to be like a more manga accurate anime adaptation of Ghost in the Shell. So with that new Ghost in the Shell series coming out, it's never been a better time to check out Ghost in the Shell 2 and just look at this kind of overlooked piece of anime past that's now celebrating 20 years and seeing this big swing as an anime sequel. This doesn't happen nearly as often enough, and it's cool that that is going on. So Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence. In addition to Ghost in the Shell 2 celebrating its 20th anniversary, another very cool anime anniversary that's happening this year is Mobile Fighter G Gundam is celebrating its 30th anniversary. Mobile Fighter G Gundam, much like Ghost in the Shell 2, was kind of this black sheep that didn't get a lot of love when it came out. In fact, it was kind of seen as like scorched earth for the Gundam franchise. Gundam, of course, is pretty much like the biggest mecha series that's out there, but when people think of Gundam, it's usually this kind of like dour space war with heavy politics going on, and what G Gundam did is kind of reinvented what a Gundam series can be. It's like a Technicolor Saturday morning energy battle shonen series. So what it does is it centers on this tournament called the Gundam Fight. It's held once every 4 years. Each country submits a Gundam representative, they fight in combat, and the winner gets to run all the other colonies for the next 4 years. So it takes like the space war element of Gundam and turns it into this like silly, campy, very campy Gundam tournament. That's a very weird change of pace for the series, and people really didn't like it when it came out, but like I said, without this show, we wouldn't get the modern take on Gundam. Like, G Gundam showed people that Gundam doesn't need to be stuck in this tiny box, that it can be different things, that it can inspire other creators to be like, well, I like mecha material, but I don't want to do like the typical Gundam thing. And it showed them that there can be something different. Up until G Gundam, every Gundam series had been in the Universal Century timeline, which is cool. I mean, there's a bunch of Gundam fans that are like Universal Century purists that only like those shows. But the problem you get is that, like, you reach a point where there's not any more you can do in that timeline without kind of retconning stuff from the past or overwriting it. G Gundam starts a new timeline, and it's no coincidence that the series that follow G Gundam are Gundam Wing, After War Gundam X, Turn A Gundam. These are all very pivotal series, and without G Gundam, you wouldn't have something like Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt, you wouldn't have Mobile Suit Gundam The Witch from Mercury. These are exciting series, and it's cool that G Gundam helped make that possible and helped reinvent how we view the Gundam franchise. And so this show, it kind of found a second life on Toonami. It eventually like aired on Toonami, but it's still been this black sheep of the series, even though it has some of like the most creative Gundam designs. Like, they're really silly, almost like borderline offensive stereotypes, but they feel very lighthearted at the same time. Like, Canada's Gundam is the Lumber Gundam, which is this lumberjack. Mexico's Gundam is the Tequila Gundam, which is insane. Holland has this like windmill Gundam. They're all such wild designs. There's like a Sailor Moon Gundam that does these like magical girl transformations even. The hero Gundam and villain Gundam are the God Gundam and Devil Gundam. It really just has fun with what a Gundam design is and like takes some big risks, and it's just so silly, fun. I like it a lot, but even if you don't think G Gundam is successful, like I said, the things that it opened up for the franchise are pivotal. And now that G Gundam is turning 30, they've announced like a sequel, albeit in like a novel. It's a G Gundam novel, but it's just kind of cool that this property that was seen as untouchable and something that Gundam wanted to forget is now getting extensions, and it's, you know, not impossible now that G Gundam could get an anime sequel down the road too. So once again, it's just cool that like G Gundam is getting this second life, that after 30 years we can kind of see it with a fresh set of eyes, and that more people are appreciating it. And, you know, there's a younger generation that like G Gundam is their favorite show. So much like Ghost in the Shell 2, it's cool when this kind of product that people didn't like can now be seen with the context of hindsight and just help take it to new places. So yeah, G Gundam turning 30, and it's never been more popular in my opinion. Before we go further, I'd just like to take a second to touch upon our sponsor for this episode. We have eBay as our sponsor. Yes, this Den of Otaku episode is powered by eBay, and eBay is kind of such a crucial tool for anime and manga fans. Like, maybe you have a local store nearby you where you can buy anime and manga stuff, but if you don't, eBay is kind kind of incredible that you can go on there, you can buy the latest anime stuff, you can find independent sellers that are selling rare, obscure things. One of my first anime memories is buying like anime VHS tapes on eBay that I couldn't get anywhere else near me. It's really cool that eBay has served this purpose and is a great repository for anime and manga. But we'd like to specifically focus on Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! These are two huge franchises that have made a real mark as anime, manga, video games, but they also have a real life in the trading card game community. I mean, Pokemon has been doing card games almost as long as the video games have existed, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Has even like set the world, it's in the Guinness Book of World Records for the top selling trading card game, which is really kind of cool. So Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! They both have two new card game sets that have just come out, and they're very exciting that they look to the past and the future of their respective franchises in a really cool way. So in terms of Pokemon, there's a new set that's come out that's part of the Scarlet and Violet expansion. It's called the Twilight Masquerade set. Basically, it's keying into the Teal Mask DLC of the Scarlet and Violet games. I know a lot of people that like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but it's the DLC that really got them excited. It adds like a new story element that's really cool. This new Twilight Masquerade set is the first time that you're getting some of the legendary Pokemon from Generation 9 in card game form. You're getting Okidogi, Munkidori, Fezandipiti, not just Ogerpon, but all the different terrestrialized forms of Ogerpon too. Terrestrialized Pokemon are like a really cool way of expanding upon the brand. There have been all these like different kind of niche evolutions that the series has gotten into, like mega evolutions, but terrestrialized Pokemon just look really cool. It's something new that's going on, and the Twilight Masquerade set really celebrates that. In addition to new Pokemon in the set, it's also marked a return of Pokemon X cards. There are 7 Pokemon X cards in the set that have things like Blood Moon Ursaluna, Sinistra X2, there are Terra Pokemon X cards too. So it's really like a fun way to celebrate what's going on currently in the Pokemon franchise. I know people that didn't check out the Scarlet and Violet video games, but have fallen in love with its new Pokemon through the card game set. And there's like some really cool etched foil cards here too. It's just like a beautiful expansion that's really celebrating the future of Pokemon and what's going on in that world right now. And to go to the other side of things, Yu-Gi-Oh! The latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Set was celebrating the series' 25th anniversary. It was called the Rarity Collection, and it basically printed money for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's been by far the most successful set. This is Rarity Collection 2. In my opinion, it's even better than its predecessor, and what it does is it really looks back to Yu-Gi-Oh's history and celebrates the rarities throughout the series past that people haven't been able to find. Like, what's so cool about Rarity Collection 2 is it's taking cards that have been like out of print for over a decade, and even if you did find ththese cards, they were gonna run you hundreds of dollars. They're just in this set now. Not only are they just in the set, but they're like plentiful, they're cheap, it's the best way to kind of experience these cards. What's in this set is you have cards like Silent Magician, Silent Swordsman, Magician's Souls, Access Code Talker. These are cards that like people would have freaked out to previously find, and now they're just in the mix. It's really cool. And Rarity Collection 2 has twice as many ultra rare and secret rare cards as its predecessor, which is also very exciting. There's some really cool variant cards that just have gorgeous artwork. Like, if you're a duelist, it's great to use these cards in the game, but if you're someone who just likes collecting, like, these are gorgeous cards that you could frame them, put them on the wall, and they'd be really cool artwork, in my opinion, too. The Rarity Collection 2 is like a really great entry point for newcomers too. Like, if you're a seasoned Yu-Gi-Oh player, this is a great way to kind of to acquire some of those cards that you wanted in the past but were too rare to find. But if you're new, this is a great way to jump on board, have a expansive deck that kind of touches on the series history, that makes it seem like you've been in there from the start. That sometimes something like Yu-Gi-Oh can seem intimidating for newcomers to jump into because you don't have the history that other players do. Rarity Collection 2 does a really great job of covering the past bases so you feel like you've been there from the start and that you're not just a beginner. So once again, you know, Pokemon, Scarlet, Violet, Twilight Masquerade, Yu-Gi-Oh! 25th Anniversary, Rarity Collection 2. These are just great sets that celebrate the past and the future of their franchises. eBay makes it so simple. You can just buy it now on eBay, have them shipped to you, and that's that. Like, it's really so simple. You can get a whole box, you can get a booster pack, you can get individual cards, and it's really cool that eBay is helping facilitate the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game communities in this sense. So once again, yeah, we'd like to thank eBay for being powered by eBay, and for just shining a light on what Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are bringing to the table. If you're a card game fan, or if you're just a fan of these franchises, this is just a great way to celebrate what's going on in those worlds. Fellow Otaku, do you hear that? Yep, I believe that's the sound of a new installment of Release the Hounds. What is Release the Hounds? Well, Release the Hounds is Den of Otaku's dedicated physical media segment. Remember physical media before everything was streaming and algorithms and Zaslavs? Physical media still plays a huge role with anime. There are certain anime that you can only get on physical media. There are certain shows that are out of print and you can't find anymore, but physical media helps preserve them. There are new Blu-ray remasters that take old retro shows and make them look more beautiful than ever before, and we just like to shine a light on that. So in each Release the Hounds, we kind of help you discover what's being released in anime's physical media, and we've got some really cool picks for this episode. The first show is Mob Psycho 103, the complete collection on Blu-ray. This came out on May 7th. Mob Psycho 100 is created by the same person as One-Punch Man, which we were talking about earlier. I actually kind of prefer Mob Psycho 100 to One-Punch Man, though. They both look beautiful to begin with, but Mob Psycho 100, it focuses on espers and psychic users rather than superheroes, and its main character, Shigeo Mob Kageyama, he's an incredibly prolific esper, but the thing is, he doesn't like showing off his powers, he doesn't like having to use them, and instead he just wants to live like a normal life. He wants to be off the radar, he wants to have fun with his friends, and just like value the life's simple pleasures. And the third season of this show, it really does a great job of celebrating why this show is so much fun. It has some huge battles, but it also just has one of like the best endings to an anime that I've ever seen. I think about the ending to Mob Psycho 100 quite a bit, actually. It really like sticks the landing and is a perfect way to bring themes together and just end a show on the best note possible. This is the third season of the show, so it certainly helps if you've seen the first two seasons of Mob Psycho 100, but it also does like a really pretty good job of being a standalone thing that you can just watch the season on its own and figure out what's going on. Mob Psycho 100 was so popular, it easily could have kept going for a few more seasons, but it really respects that like it didn't just dilute its brand and that it ends on a high note, and it really, like I said, goes out on such a beautiful resolution. So it's finally available on Blu-ray. The whole series is now available on Blu-ray, and if you've never seen Mob Psycho 100, now's the time to kind of jump on ship with that. The next show we'd like to highlight is Konosuba, An Explosion on This Wonderful World, the complete season. This came out on May 14th. And Konosuba, An Explosion on This Wonderful World is a spin-off of Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World. Now, the original Konosuba is basically just like an isekai show. It's about someone getting whisked away to a fantasy world, dealing with a lot of magic users while they take on a demon king. That in itself isn't that special, but it really just understands what it is. It doesn't try to overextend itself. It does really great character work. It helps subvert the isekai trope, and it really just has fun with its characters. Like, this is a cast that it's really just fun to hang out with. It's really fun. It's really silly. And this spin-off, it specifically focuses on Megumin, who is one of the most popular characters of the original show. She focuses exclusively on explosion magic, which is kind of, no pun intended, but like an explosive use of power, and she's such like a wild card that it's a really fun idea to do a spin-off that focuses exclusively on her. Because it is a spin-off, once again, like, it certainly doesn't hurt if you're familiar with the original Konosuba, but at the same time, this does a good job of just existing in its own little window that you can watch it and not feel overwhelmed if you haven't seen any other Konosuba. The third season of Konosuba is airing right now. This spin-off takes place between the second and third season, and it's just like a great extension that helps expand the brand, do a little more with it, but doesn't like feel gratuitous in any way. It's just like a fun little extra thing. It's only 12 episodes. And it's just a fun little extra addendum to this isekai series. If you want something weird, exciting, and just explosive in the isekai genre, this is the show to do it. And the final show we'd like to highlight is Blue Lock Season 1 Part 2. Blue Lock is a really cool show. It's a soccer anime, so it fits in that sports genre. There's a lot of sports anime at this point. There's like a sports anime for every sport imaginable, from golf to synchronized diving. This is soccer, but what's really cool about it is it kind of mixes the sports genre with like the death game genre. It's kind of like Squid Game meets soccer. Basically, the premise behind this show is that Japan's national soccer team is doing really poorly, and so in order to kind of rejuvenate their team, they get like an unconventional coach who puts the top 300 soccer players in a prison-like facility called Blue Lock. The winner of this training system will become the head striker on Japan's soccer team, but all the losers are barred from ever playing soccer in Japan ever again. So it kind of is this all-or-nothing scenario that you either get to like live out your dream, or you're like completely shattered in this respect, that you have to give up on playing soccer. And it really does a good job of like some sports anime. It all comes down to whether like the sport is exciting. It's this whole like, are they gonna win, are they gonna lose kind of thing. This really adds like an extra character development and even like psychological horror to some degree to this mix, that it's just as much about like the training system and the characters who are in this as you see the numbers dwindle down as it is about soccer. So if you're a fan of sports anime, this is worth checking out. If you're not, this is still doing enough different. There's like a baseball anime called Tribe 9 that's like extreme baseball, and it really kind of rejuvenated the sports genre. I think Blue Lock is even more exciting than that, and it's just like such a different approach to a sports anime that Blue Lock is getting a lot of attention. This is, you know, a fun way to celebrate that show. Again, it's the second half of the first season, so in this case, you are going to want to watch the first season, but it's never looked better than it has on this Blu-ray set. And it's just a great kind of cutting-edge anime that will hopefully kind of rejuvenate the sports genre and push it to new places. So once again, for Release the Hounds, we have Mob Psycho 103, the complete collection. We have Konosuba, an explosion on this wonderful world, the complete season. And we have Blue Lock, Season 1, Part 2. It looks like we have just enough time to fit in another segment of the Big Three. For those of you who don't know, the Big Three is Den of Otaku's kind of dedicated, just miscellanea segment. There's so much anime out there, both old and new, that it's easy for shows to slip through the cracks. This is a segment where we kind of highlight stuff that you might have missed, that might not be on your radar, that couldn't fit into another segment. And there's just so much anime out there that you can't know about it all. But this segment kind of, it shows you what else is out there. So the first show I'd like to focus on here is called Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night. This is a new show that's airing this season. It's really surprised me. It kind of gets into like the slice of life genre. It focuses on an artist who kind of gets disgraced and doesn't want to draw anymore, and focuses on her finding her community. She kind of bonds with a fellow former pop idol, a YouTuber, and another musician. And these four girls, they really bond and form a community. They've all kind of faced setbacks in the past where they've, whether through criticism or just like losing their self-esteem. This is a great show that kind of shows the power of creative expression in finding your people, in working together. And it's just so beautiful. Like it's a show that really surprised me. And I look forward to it. Like, it's the show I look forward to the most each week. And it's just like a great slice of life reminder that sometimes people don't know how to like reach their true potential until they meet the right people, find the right creative outlet. And this show really does a great job of showing the power of working together and creatively expressing yourself. There's great animation in this show. There's really great music. There's another show this season called Girls Band Cry that focuses exclusively on music. This show, I think, does what it's doing just a little better. And it's really just like, these are such fun characters. It'll really touch your heart. It's just a great expression of what it means to be like human and what it means to feel like the world is against you, but how you can overcome these odds when you just have people rooting for you. And it's just a really beautiful show. The next show we like to focus on is Great Teacher Onizuka. This is a bit of an oldie. It's from the late 90s, early 2000s, but it's streaming on Netflix for the first time. So it's a great time to kind of check out this anime. You might have missed it the first time around. This is a show that seems like it would have been tailor-made for Adult Swim and Toonami. It never hit that market, but would be perfect for it. It gets into the whole like juvenile delinquent school genre, but does something really different with it. It focuses on a former biker gang leader who decides to become a teacher, kind of for impure purposes. He starts teaching at a middle school for the purpose of meeting high school girls. He hopes that teaching can help get him some ins with high school girls. But through doing this, he kind of learns the beauty in teaching, that he has a real affinity for this. He learns more from his students. His students really get inspired through him. And it really shows like the beauty of education, of like falling into a field that you wouldn't expect, and just the power of community. Once again, just kind of like Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night. And this show is only 43 episodes, so it's a little longer than like the standard 26 episode show, but it's not so long. It's not hundreds of episodes that it's like overwhelming to get into. And it's just a really cool school show. Like, it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a real heart to it at the same time too, but like it is deeply funny. Like, you'll laugh at this show so much. And it's just cool to see a show like this where someone stumbles into a field that they really weren't expecting to enjoy, and it just catches them by surprise. Onizuka's journey in the show is just so cool. It's one of like the great anime of the early 2000s, and it's easy for the show to miss people by because it's like over 2 decades old at this point. So if this is the show you missed, it's a great time to check it out. If you've been curious about the show and haven't had like the drive to do it, the fact that it's streaming on Netflix now makes it easier than ever to do so. Like, just put on an episode now. Like, it hits the ground running right from the start, and it's just such a cool show. It's really fun, it's really silly, and it has like a really touching nostalgic energy without feeling outdated at the same time too. Like, 2000s is a really interesting period for anime where like some shows fall into this period of complacency, but Onizuka is doing some different fun things, and it works just as well now as it did back when it first came out. So great teacher, Onizuka. Check it out. And the last thing we'd like to focus on is actually a movie. It's called Haikyuu: The Dumpster Battle. This is a sequel to the Haikyuu anime series, which is another sports show that this time on volleyball. It's one of the most popular sports anime, but what's cool about this movie is it's the second highest grossing film in Japan right now. It's in theaters in America right now too, and Haikyuu ended back in 2020. People have kind of been waiting for resolution on it. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, and this movie, The Dumpster Battle, finally delivers on that front. People were wondering if this movie was actually going to happen. They've announced 2 movies, so The Dumpster Battle is the first of 2 that is kind of this grand farewell finish to the series. It's really cool when a finale can be done as a feature film. Haikyuu is doing that really well, and what's interesting about this movie is it's just focused on one big volleyball match between like 2 rivals that audiences have wanted to see compete since the start of the show, basically. Like, it really kind of delivers on this tension that's been building through the whole series. And there are some sports anime movies that show a whole tournament, or they show multiple battles. This movie shows just one battle. Like, it's just one volleyball match, but at the same time, it doesn't feel padded. It doesn't feel like it's struggling to tell a story. It finds enough material to sustain a whole movie, whether that's through like the character development of their respective teams, just creating tension through the action of the volleyball match. And it's really cool. Like, if you're a Haikyuu fan, this is mandatory viewing, but if you've never seen Haikyuu before either, this movie's a good, even though it's the finale, it's like a good jumping in point, funnily enough. Like, it shows you why this series has become so popular, why it has so many fans, and it just like hits all the bases that you want from a sports anime. It really does a good job, and it's like a super satisfying finish to the Haikyuu saga. So once again, for the big 3, we have Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night, Great Teacher Onizuka, and Haikyuu: The Dumpster Battle. And unfortunately, fellow otaku, that's all the time we have in this episode before I get isekai'd back to reality. We would once again like to thank our sponsor, eBay. We'd like to thank you, our viewer, for going on this journey with us and just loving anime as much as we do. And yeah, we'll see you later, Space Cowboys. Always a pleasure.